Hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we're super happy to have you here. And if you've been listening and enjoying for a while, I would be super grateful if you would please take a moment to give us a review on Apple Podcasts. It's one of the best and simplest ways to pay it forward and help others find the show so that they too can tap into the powerful perspectives and positive vibrations we are collectively emanating. The other unique and magical way to share this show is by sending any friends you think would benefit from listening to this podcast our Game with the Universe link at positivehead.com/game. Also listed in the show notes, which will serve them up a quote-unquote random episode when they click it. Just instruct them before clicking the link to close their eyes for a moment and sincerely ask the universe to cue up the episode that contains the insight and perspectives that they most need to hear at this point in their life journey, and then click to listen to whatever episode is synchronistically served up to them. I have heard time and time again from people about the incredible results they received playing the game. So just tell your friends magical results are guaranteed or their karma back. All right, all you positive heads, thanks for tuning in yet again. So happy to be here, and going to continue with the ongoing reading of Power of Awareness by Neville Goddard. Before I dig into that, and if you have missed any of the previous episodes, it's fine. The great thing about this book and why I chose it is you can sort of pick up anywhere, and it's going to all be very pertinent. He certainly reiterates things a lot, which of course we do on the show a lot, right? We're sort of burning this stuff into our brain, into our awareness, practicing. Building our muscles, our imagination and consciousness, and shifting in a certain direction. And so he definitely does a lot of that with his writing. I found so far reading it. This is my first time reading it through as well. So I've definitely enjoyed it so far. I hope you have as well. You can always go back and start from the beginning. But like I said, if you are just tuning in, you haven't heard any of the other the other episodes with the first, 11, I think we're starting on chapter 12 today. So no problem at all, but you can always go back as well. Before I dig in, I would like to take a moment and read a review on iTunes. I haven't been doing that the last few episodes. We have a few stacking up, so I'm going to just go ahead and read one of them. And this one is by Feeling Rather Rosy. Feeling Rather Rosy said, "Thank you. I have been listening to this podcast for about 2 months now, and I absolutely love it. I've been struggling with mental illness for most of my life. And for the last 2 years, I've been on a path of recovery through dialectical behavior therapy, DBT, which focuses on mindfulness and emotional regulation. The positive power of this podcast has really helped me, and it totally aligns with everything I've learned in DBT. I am grateful to have discovered it. Right now, though, I am dealing with an event that has led to an emotional setback, and I'm having difficulty connecting to my own positivity, which I had been working so hard on cultivating. Brandon, what do you do when you begin feeling negativity creeping into your life? I know that I'm not alone, that I am part of Source, and that I have a higher purpose, but I'm beginning to feel a pervasive sense of loneliness and loss of motivation. Thank you for your amazing contribution to the world and to my life. I truly appreciate everything you do." Well, Rosie, thank you so much for completing the circle of love and leaving this wonderful review. For those of you who haven't reviewed on iTunes, please do so. It helps us to reach new people, and certainly helps to fuel my fire, continuing this labor of love. You can also write in questions. Rosie left a question right here on the review, which is fine. You can also write them in through positivehead.com, Brandon at positivehead.com, to my email direct. Also, you can find recently on Google Play. They have a podcast platform now, and so check out over there and subscribe over there as well. You can't leave reviews there, though, but subscribing there will help us reach new people as well. As far as your question here, Rosie, I've spoken on this topic a few times, actually looking back, just doing a quick search on the site. If you go to episode 245 and episode 26, I talk about mental illness, and it makes me instantly think of Ross, a listener, very active on the Positive Head Facebook group, by the way. Yeah, if you guys aren't there, Positive Heads, where a lot of the listeners are connecting and supporting each other. And Ross is very active there, and he's went on to launch the Spiritual Phoenix podcast, which I recommend as well. And, I remember him writing in many months ago and he being diagnosed as mentally ill. And a lot of people, what I would say is you got to be really careful with those diagnoses, because these are stories that you were told, and it doesn't mean maybe you did act ill in a certain way, but every moment you're recreating yourself anew. So, a lot of what we're learning here on this show is putting those stories down. So, and realizing you're a new Rosie this moment as you listen to it, different than when you wrote this review, a week or whatever it might have been ago. So, as far as when you're feeling negativity creeping into your life, doing things like tuning into this show, embracing it, first of all, loving yourself for being there. Don't resist it. Know that is part of the process. It is a spiral. Life is a spiral. You're going to 2 steps forward, 1 step back. When we start beating ourselves up like there's something wrong with us for ever feeling down. I have moments where I feel down, a lot less than I used to, from training the muscle of because it's always about the perspective you're taking, right? If you're feeling down, it's because you've taken on a certain perspective. And if you use it as a sort of a rumble strip, as Abraham puts it, to notice when you're feeling off, it can be really, really useful to say, I can know I'm out of sort of sync, out of line with source when I'm feeling really disconnected and powerless and all those things. But love yourself there. In a lot of times, especially if you've experienced trauma and so forth, you need to sort of go through and fully embrace that experience, and just kind of sugarcoating it and saying, get positive, stop thinking so negative. What's wrong with you? That is certainly not the path. But Rosie, you're doing it. The path is the goal. You're on it. You're making progress. You are going to circle back. It's inevitable. All of you guys, any of you guys who tune into the show and you're feeling so great and you're resonating, just know that we're going to all have moments of, it is a spiral. You're going to circle back around to things that you think you've moved through to find deeper truths. And that is a part of the process. And if you can understand that, then you don't beat yourself up for that part of the process. Instead, you wrap your arms around yourself and say that you love yourself fully right where you are in that moment of slipping backwards. And that's how you're going to come through it even greater and grander than before. Hope that helps in some way, Rosie. And let's see here. So what we're going to do is we're going to move right along and continue with chapter 12 of The Power of Awareness by Neville Goddard, written in 1952. Classic book. Subjective control. Your imagination, and interestingly enough, this, could very synchronistically, just the title alone, could have a lot to do with Rosie's question, right? Your imagination is able to do all that you ask in proportion to the degree of your attention. All progress, all fulfillment of desire depend upon the control and concentration of your attention. Attention may be either attracted from without or directed from within. Attention is attracted from without when you are consciously occupied with the external impressions of the immediate present. The very lines of this page are attracting your attention from without. Your attention is directed from within when you deliberately choose what you will be preoccupied with mentally. It is obvious that in the objective world, your attention is not only attracted by, but is constantly directed to external impressions. But your control in the subjective state is almost non-existent. For in this state, attention is usually the servant and not the master, the passenger and not the navigator of your world. There's an enormous difference between attention directed objectively and attention directed subjectively. And the capacity to change your future depends on the latter. When you're able to control the movements of your attention in the subjective world, you can modify or alter your life as you please. But this control cannot be achieved if you allow your attention to be attracted constantly from without. Each day, set yourself the task of deliberately withdrawing your attention from the objective world and of focusing it subjectively. In other words, concentrate on those thoughts or moods which you deliberately determine. Then those things that now restrict you will fade and drop away. The day you achieve control of the movements of your attention in the subjective world, you are master of your fate. You will no longer accept the dominance of outside conditions or circumstances. You will not accept life on the basis of the world without. Having achieved control of the movements of your attention and having discovered the mystery hid from the ages, that Christ in you is your imagination, you will assert the supremacy of imagination and put all things in subjection to it. Chapter 13, Acceptance. Man's perceptions are not bounded by organs of perception. He perceives more than sense. Though ever so acute, can discover. However much you seem to be living in a material world, you are actually living in a world of imagination. The outer physical events of life are the fruit of forgotten blossom times, results of previous and usually forgotten states of consciousness. They are the ends running true to oft-times forgotten imaginative origins. Whenever you become completely absorbed in an emotional state, you are at that moment assuming the feeling of the state fulfilled. If persisted in, whatsoever you are intensely emotional about, you will experience in your world. These periods of absorption of concentrated attention are the beginnings of the things you harvest. It is in such moments that you are exercising your creative power, the only creative power there is. At the end of these periods or moments of absorption, you speed from the imaginative states where you have not been physically to where you were physically an instant ago. In these periods, the imagined state is so real that when you return to the objective world and find that it is not the same as the imagined state, it is an actual shock. You have seen something in imagination with such vividness that you now wonder whether the evidence of your senses can now be believed. And like Keats, you ask, was it a vision or a waking dream? Fled is that music. Do I wake or sleep? This shock reverses your time sense. By this is meant that instead of your experience resulting from your past, it has now become the result of being in imagination where you have not yet been physically. In effect, this moves you across a bridge of incident to the physical realization of your imagined state. The man who at will can assume whatever state he pleases has found the keys to the kingdom of heaven. The keys are desire, imagination, and a steadily focused attention on the feeling of the wish fulfilled. To such a man, any undesirable objective fact is no longer a reality, and the ardent wish no longer a dream. Prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, then there shall not be room enough to receive it. Malachi 3:10. The windows of heaven may not be opened and the treasure seized by a strong will, but they open of themselves and present their treasures as a free gift, a gift that comes when absorption reaches such a degree that it results in a feeling of complete acceptance. The passage from your present state to the feeling of your wish fulfilled is not across a gap. There is continuity between the so-called real and unreal. To cross from one state to the other, you simply extend your feelers, trust your touch, and enter fully into the spirit of what you are doing. Not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord of hosts. Assume the spirit, the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and you will have opened the windows to receive the blessing. To assume a state is to get into the spirit of it. Your triumphs will be a surprise only to those who did not know your hidden passage from the state of longing to the assumption of the wish fulfilled. The Lord of hosts will not respond to your wish until you have assumed the feeling of already being what you want to be, for acceptance is a channel of his actions. Acceptance is the Lord of hosts in action. So yeah, this is a very interesting, this brings up an interesting thought. And it's one, how often when we get into a point of, not enough money or, times are tough, right? Where then it causes us to really buckle down and be more careful and frugal. And I would say, oftentimes doing the opposite will create what you want to see more of, right? By living as if you have it, and it doesn't mean be completely foolish and careless. Once again, like everything, there's these subtle, the art of living is finding this subtle balance. But learning how to, sort of let go of what's happening externally and move into the state that you want to be and see more of. So it can seem counterintuitive to go on the vacation when you really need to buckle down and work. But that's exactly what brings what you need. That energy, the freedom, the acting abundant. And so oftentimes, we get into a domino effect in the wrong direction. And this is how you've got to, that can be sort of the toughest part, is breaking the cycle, right? Chapter 14, the effortless way. The principle of least action governs everything in physics, from the path of a planet to the path of a pulse of light. Least action is the minimum of energy multiplied by the minimum of time. Therefore, in moving from your present state to the state desired, you must use the minimum of energy and take the shortest possible time. Your journey from one state of consciousness to another is a psychological one. So, to make the journey, you must employ the psychological equivalent of least action, and the psychological equivalent is mere assumption. The day you fully realize the power of assumption, you discover that it works in complete conformity with this principle. It works by means of attention minus effort. Thus, with least action, through an assumption, you hurry without haste and reach your goal without effort. Because creation is finished, what you desire already exists. It is excluded from view because you can see only the contents of your own consciousness. It is a function of an assumption to call back the excluded view and restore full vision. It is not the world, but your assumptions that change. An assumption brings the invisible into sight. It is nothing more nor less than seeing with the eye of God, i.e., imagination. For the Lord seeth not as a man seeth, for man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart. The heart is the primary organ of sense, hence the first cause of experience. When you look on the heart, you are looking at your assumptions. Assumptions determine your experience. Watch your assumption with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Assumptions have the power of objective realization. Every event in the visible world is a result of an assumption or idea in the unseen world. The present moment is all important, for it is only in the present moment that our assumptions can be controlled. The future must become the present in your mind if you would wisely operate the law of assumption. The future becomes the present when you imagine that you already are what you will be when your assumption is fulfilled. Be still, least action, and know that you are that which you desire to be. The end of longing should be being. Translate your dreams into being. Perpetual construction of future states without the consciousness of already being them, that is, picturing your desire without actually assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled, is the fallacy and mirage of mankind. It is simply futile daydreaming. And that's the difference between daydreaming and using your imagination as the Christ conscious self, right? All right, one more chapter for today. Very short one. The Crown of the Mysteries. The assumption of the wish fulfilled is the ship that carries you over the unknown seas to the fulfillment of your dream. The assumption is everything. Realization is subconscious and effortless. Assume a virtue if you have it not. Act on the assumption that you already possess that which you sought. Blessed is she that believed, for there shall be a performance of those things which were told her from the Lord. As the Immaculate Conception is the foundation of the Christian mysteries, so the Assumption is their crown. Psychologically, the Immaculate Conception means the birth of an idea in your own consciousness, unaided by another. For instance, when you have a specific wish or hunger or longing, it is an Immaculate Conception in the sense that no physical person or things planted it in your mind. It is self-conceived. Every man is the Mary of the Immaculate Conception, and birth to his idea must give. The Assumption is the crown of the mysteries because it is the highest use of consciousness. When in imagination you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are mentally lifted up to a higher level. When through your persistence, this assumption becomes actual fact, you automatically find yourself on a higher level. That is, you have achieved your desire in your objective world. Your assumption guides all your conscious and subconscious movements towards its suggested end, so inevitably that it actually dictates the events. The drama of life is a psychological one, and the whole of it is written and produced by your assumptions. Learn the art of assumption, for only in this way can you create your own happiness. All right. Very, very good, guys. Loving it so far. Hope you are too. It is definitely been a joy to read this very well-known book and to connect with you guys and share with you guys. Hopefully it's given you lots to ponder and lots of tools, shedding the old ideas that you are unempowered and understanding, hey, I've got the power in me. This is how it goes. And this is part of your awakening and birthing process, to go through and sort of dig in deep and understand all of these things. All of these tools, right, that are already within you, just waiting for the time and place when you're ready to get them out and build, craft, create, manifest the next greatest and grandest version of self. All right, guys, while we're going through the power of awareness, I mentioned before, we're mixing it up a bit. And instead of leaving you with a song, we're leaving each episode with a nano tap with the lovely Sonia Sophia from the World Tapping Circle. This one today is called Fearful to Cheerful.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sonia Sophia, coming to bring you another nano tap, really quick little tap called Fearful to Cheerful. So use this to work out some fear that you have about something that has happened or something that you're worried about happening. Tune in to where you want to aim it, someplace where you've got a little bit of fear. Big breath. Even though I have this fear, repeat after me, even though I have this fear about, say what you're worried about, I'm open to loving and accepting myself. Tap your eyebrows. This fear. Down to the edge of your eye socket at the side of your temples. This fear. Tuning into your fear and breathing. Tap the front of your cheeks. Even though I have this fear about, say what your fear is about again. And breathe. Tap under the nose. I'm open to loving and accepting myself. Tap under the lips. I'm afraid that, say what you're concerned about. Tap the front of the chest, nice open fingers, this fear. Okay? Dropping down to the front of the rib cage. Even though I'm afraid of, big deep breath, say your fear again. Tap the side of the ribs. I'm open to loving and accepting myself. Okay, inside of the wrist, on the wrist bone. This fear. Tap the side of the thumb. I accept this fear. We're going to jump all the way to the top of the head. Ready? I accept this fear. Just accept it for 10 seconds, just as it is, without trying to change it. Tap the sides of the head and the back of the head. I'm open to accepting this fear for 10 seconds. Tap the eyebrows. Let's accept it for 10 more seconds. I'm accepting this fear exactly as it is. Big deep breath. Just relax. Stop trying to change it. Big soft breath. Just honoring the fact that it's really scary. Tap the temples. I accept a part of me that's really worried. Tap the cheeks. I'm open to releasing this fear about, and say what your fear's about. Tap under the nose. I accept this remaining fear for 5 seconds. Just accept the fear as it is. Good. Tap under your lips. I'm open to loving and forgiving myself for holding on to this fear for as long as I have. Tap your chest. Big soft breath. Big noisy breath. Good. Tapping the front of the ribs one more time. I'm open to releasing the stress and fear about this. Tap the side of the ribs, even if I don't know what that would feel like yet. Tap the inside of the wrist. It's okay that I don't know what it feels like to be calm about this. Tapping the top of the head. I'm allowing myself to find out. I can still protect myself even if I'm not so worried. Tap the eyebrows. I'm allowing myself to take care of myself. Tap the temples to keep myself safe, even without this fear that's trying to protect me. Now tune in. Take a few breaths. Notice how you're feeling. I bet you anything that your fear has dropped at least a little bit, maybe significantly. Feel free to rewind this, use it a few more times through. You might make a huge dent in this big old fear of yours. If you want more tapping, come join us in the World Tapping Circle. We do a lot of this, and it's so deep and beautiful. And I promise you'll have rapid transformation in your life anywhere you point the loving tool of tapping.